The comments and views expressed on The More Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The More Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Broadcasting from Amsterdam and across the world online. You're now watching The More Show and I'm your host, Kevin Moore. Now for the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. Now on today's show, I'm joined with Allison Carmen, who writes a blog for the Huffington Post and Psychology Today. Now she's a guest lecturer at the Institute of Integrative Nutrition and holds a BA in accounting. Now, as a life coach, business consultant and author, Allison has developed the simple life philosophy called Maybe to help people deal with the uncertainty of life. Now, she has successfully applied the philosophy to help her clients who range from entrepreneurs, owners of multi-million-dollar companies, to artists, actors, writers, fashion designers, attorneys, healthcare workers, and more. Allison Carmen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for coming on. You came on previously with your book, The Gift of Maybe. We'll link that at the bottom of this video as we speak right now. I wouldn't normally have put this video out so soon, but it's all about now. And one thing I'm trying to do with my interviews right now is to bring in, I think what my responsibility is really to get to, when I get people on is to try to bring in whatever we're discussing into the moment now, because if it's no good in the sense of helping people now, what's the point? Do you know what I mean? To me, that's how I feel. One thing I really want to do, and has kept coming to me, is a spiritual news network, because the more that I watch the news, and I'm a bit of a political junkie right now on the side, the more it's just well, if we could have the news from a spiritual perspective, it would just be so different. I mean, the only alternative news we have is very, very fear-based, and the mainstream news as well is well, is it controlled? Who knows, right? Who really knows? But obviously each one has their own agenda. Even if it's not controlled, there are people in charge of these news organizations with their own political agenda and own agenda for whatever, you know, their views are, even as a group collective. So yeah, the reason I put this out now so soon is that, you know, as the aftermath of the US elections, it's all about healing and finding common ground, which is what you're promoting. So how does The Gift of Maybe, your book, help in what we've gone through now? And why are you coming on today as well? Because you were mentioning this off air as well, and I thought it was interesting.
Okay. Well, you know, like we spoke about last time I was on the show, is that we all write stories in life about what needs to happen for us to be okay. And I think a lot of people in the United States during the election, they heard Donald Trump talk about things that were racist or against women, against other minorities, against people with disabilities. And I think a lot of us started to write this story that Hillary Clinton needs to win for all of us to be okay. And of course, you know, the election's over, Donald Trump won, and more than half the nation is spinning out of control, thinking things are bad, they'll never get better. What's going to happen next? And there are a lot of people that are very angry, scared, not able to leave their house. And so what this idea of maybe allows us to see is that we suffer in this moment because we think we know. We think we know what's going to happen tomorrow. And the truth is we don't know. And within not knowing, there's a lot of hope and possibility. And that's where the maybe comes in. And because if you think about it, like, yes, you know things that Donald Trump said in the past. You know that in the moment. You know what you need to do. You know how you need to act. But anything beyond today is a projection. And the projection is going to make us suffer. So what the maybe says, it reminds us you don't know. So within this open space of uncertainty, maybe things will get better. Maybe things won't be as bad as you think. Maybe you need to act. So what it does is it softens your projection of the future and brings you back to the moment to have the strength and resilience to do what you need to do next. And that's really what it's all about. So I would see all these people They're so angry and they're so afraid, and they say, I'm going to use this energy to make a difference. But we all know that anger and fear, they might awaken us. They might make us recognize what needs to happen. But it's a very difficult energy to run to try to make change, because anger is chaotic, fear is depleting. And so these energies are just they're gonna make us sick, and they're gonna make our message not as strong as we really want it to be. So yes, anger and fear awaken us, but over time we have to find a place to go. And if you turn around to people and say right now, just be positive, it's practically impossible for people, because if you're afraid of the unknown, it's very hard to hold a positive thought. So you have the anger and the fear, and then you're trying to stay positive, and you have all this uncertainty. And really this idea of maybe kind of allows everything to kind of find a new place for itself. It allows the anger and the fear to subside when you recognize that uncertainty is your best friend. And it allows you to drop the game of positive, negative thinking when you realize, I don't need to be positive. I just need to embrace possibility. I need to look at this moment and say, it's okay, I don't know what's going to happen next. But within not knowing is hope. I need to act today, and I can hold hope for the future. So that's why I think maybe is really such a great perspective for all of us going forward.
Yeah, okay. And again, that's very much, when we live in the future, we're kind of living in fear. And when we live in the past, it's kind of depression in a sense, isn't it? It can cause, because it's what could have been. But when we're in the moment now, and let's just be in the moment now, even in this interview, right now, looking at from an election point of view and what's going on right now, everything's actually perfect. Obama's still in power. The president-elect is forming his cabinet. It's not. World leaders are. Have quite quietly accepted the results, and everything's cool with them. It seems to be. Russia's obviously quite happy. Right now, everything's okay. But what that situation will be like in come January or beyond, again, that's projecting further. We don't know. We don't know any much, but maybe, as you say, it'll be okay. But and this is a great example right now between me and you of what a spiritual news network could be, because I've been thinking, well, what the hell, I want to do this, but how the hell do you bring the news from a spiritual perspective? Well, you kind of report it with some people like yourselves, where you see it from a you're someone that's written a spiritual book in a sense. Well, I hope you're okay with that. And you're bringing that into the moment now, which is what I'm trying to do. Well,
it's also what's super interesting from what's happening here now too, is that people, you say, yeah, in the moment, everything is okay. But a lot of people right now are still looking for certainty. Even if you look at our stock market right now, the stock market in the United States is up because the stock market saw that Obama and Trump met. And so everybody's trying to say, to make like things are good. So it's interesting. I'm saying, we need to stay in maybe, but we need to be careful, because just like uncertainty scares us, certainty makes us complacent. So it's interesting. People are trying to grab on to things are okay and things will be good. And I'm not even saying that, because again, we don't want to become complacent. We know what we saw in the past. So maybe maybe everything will be okay. Maybe it'll be bad and get better over time. We just have to be careful not to grab for certainty either. And I hope people understand that certainty can knock us down just as much as uncertainty can. And if people try to look for certainty right now, what's going to happen is they'll make themselves feel better now, and then in 2 months, something else is going to knock them down. And then they're not going to like who Trump appointed as a cabinet member, and then they're going to get knocked down again. The game is to not grasp for anything. Just to allow ourselves to be present and allow ourselves to be uncertain. Because uncertainty also is the place where the world will change. If we just want to know right now, we're going to grab old paradigms, old way of doing things. Maybe really is the place where we could say, okay, I don't need to grab onto anything right now, because I don't know what anything means. I could stay in the moment and say, maybe I need to do something now based on what I saw before. And I'm not going to let my fear make my decision today. And I'm not going to grasp for certainty, because again, certainty will make the world not change. And we will keep going in the direction we're going in. So again, it's like there's nothing to hold on to right now. There never was, but we thought that, we always have this idea that
there you go. There never was. There never was.
Right.
Hang on a minute. Aren't we getting something completely wrong here as well? That why is where all this fear of who's coming to power now? Where is our power? Why does Donald Trump coming into power mean that we have no power ourselves to live the life that we want to live? Why are we looking up to these systems, these governments, that as in a sense of they're in charge of where we're going to go with our life? That just because the economy is dumping and there's all these other issues, that we're reliant on the government, therefore, to give us the power to have the life we want. But this has never been the case. People are so confused or mixed up in the sense that just because someone's come in with all these issues, that person is now ruined their life. Well, hang on a minute. What about the law of attraction? Where does the law of attraction fit into any of this stuff? And what I mean by the law of attraction, if you're not too sure what I'm talking about, not yourself but other people, the idea that we can have the life we want, that we can manifest anything in our life. And Donald Trump is not in charge of that manifesting. It's yourself. I think the biggest problem I think the greatest thing that this gives us is the reflection that these people, government was never in charge of us in the first place.
Right. Well, I do think that you have a point. I think that we all do live in these systems, right? And the systems do affect us, but we don't need to give our power to them. And then if we keep our own power, what happens? And that's what's so interesting about, a lot of people who have embraced spirituality, they're very sensitive. And so when they see these things happening, many people, they get knocked down. The anger, the chaos really bothers them. But you're right, we have to hold our own power. And that came to me years ago, and it's probably right after 9/11. It's like, who am I going to give my power to? After a while, you could choose, I'm going to give my power away and continue to suffer and not make the changes I want to make in my life, or I'm going to hold it. But again, the reason why people don't hold their power is because they're afraid of uncertainty. So if you think about it, out of all the issues going on right now, the relationship you have with uncertainty is the most dominant relationship in your life. Because if you could handle the unknown, you're going to be able to hold your power better. If you could handle the unknown, you're going to fight for what you can believe in. If you could handle the unknown, you're going to go for the career. You're going to go for the job. You're going to be willing to take that risk in your love life. So again, whether people hold their power has to do with people's ability to hang out with uncertainty. And it's hard for people. So maybe as a tool to help people hold on.
Absolutely.
Because when people see uncertainty, they say, they write the story, things are bad. Because I don't know the answer, things are going to be bad. Because I don't know the answer, I can't imagine things are going to get better. And so we all need tools to be able to allow ourselves to deal with the unknown. Because if you could deal with the unknown, you will say, I am in power. Nobody has power over me. But the minute the fear of the unknown, it gets inside of you, it's kind of game over. And I think a lot of people have to decide, how am I going to deal with this relationship? And the ones that can will keep their power.
Now, to me, looking at all those people that have that issue where they are so scared of what's around the corner or what's happening right now, that's almost like a religious thing where we want to be told what to think, told what to do, told what to say, because we don't want to take responsibility for ourselves. That's what happens in religion, guys, and that's what's going on right now with coming from that space that you're living from. And okay, so you want to be told what to think, what to say, what to do. Well, get on with it. Go for it. But that's exactly what you're gonna get, and you're living out of, not in the idea of maybe. You're living in fear and everything else. It's just, I see it just the same as religion. Religion does that very well. It controls, and that's what's happening right now. And even I have to say as well, the alternative media is just as bad right now as the mainstream media. I really thought at one point that the alternative media was a good thing, and I don't know. I see it as being just as negative or worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I totally hear. I think people right now are looking for media that validates their thought instead of looking at media to figure out where the truth is.
Right, so you resonate. So you could say, remember what you're going to say. So you could say that actually the people that we attract in our lives and the situations is a mirror of where we're at in our life.
right? And we have to stop looking at the media to just tell us what we want to hear. We have to figure out what we think, but we still need to hear the truth. See, what's happened to the truth? I think that was the most fascinating thing to me, is that people were willing to just look at the taglines and say, okay, I agree with that. That's enough for me. And we could be spiritual and we could be informed at the same time. We can keep our power and be informed at the same time. So I think it's really important that people are willing to listen to ideas maybe they originally thought they didn't agree with. We have to all be able to communicate and be okay with truth and find common ground. And that's a part of it too. We have to keep our own power, but we have to figure out a way to get along with our neighbor and get along with people in the next state and get along with people in the next country. And I think everybody is so stuck in the position. Everyone's so afraid of the unknown that we're not willing also to communicate. And I think that's going to be a big thing going forward. And the alternative media, the more they push this propaganda and things that aren't true, I think there's going to be more divisiveness. But it's up to the people to decide, do I want to spend my life just looking for people who agree with me? Or do I want to spend my life looking for the truth and what I believe is right and fighting for things to make the world a better place?
Actually, just let me ask you right now, what is America like as of today? What is it? Is it changing? Have you seen change? What's it like to be an American right now?
Well, it's a really interesting time. There's definitely a lot of divisiveness. I mean, there are people that are not spending Thanksgiving together that have been together for 20 years based on political lines. But on the other hand, there's an awakening, because I think a lot of people became complacent. They thought they were certain about their jobs and their life, and they live in a free country, and now they're realizing that it might not be so. We don't know what's going to happen. So I see that a lot of people are fighting, but at the same time, I see unity. I see people becoming politically active that have never been active before. There's more money being put into causes that people were forgetting about. So I see there's a lot that needs to be repaired, but there's a lot of people that are waking up to the fact that I need to fight for what's just and right in the world. So it's a really interesting time, and you don't know what's gonna happen. But I do think that what I've also seen is that people aren't willing to forgive the person next door who voted differently than them. And I think what's happening is that people sometimes mix forgiveness in with other things. Just because you forgive somebody doesn't mean you need to still be friends with them. Just because you forgive someone doesn't mean you need to trust them. So I think that forgiveness is probably the first phase that we all need to go into, to understand this person looked at things differently than I look at them, but I need to forgive them for myself and to move forward and be able to sit across from them at Thanksgiving and find common ground. This country needs to begin by finding common ground and the fact that we are all part of one country, and we need to work out our differences. So right now, a lot of divisiveness, but at the same time, a lot of awakening. So we'll see what happens.
I don't think people realize as well just how free America is. Do they have any clue? Do you know how controlled it is in China? I don't think people really understand. Now, I'm going to play a clip on the screen right now. I won't be able to send the feed to you, but it's playing on the screen. Now, this is a clip of a BBC reporter trying to interview an independent lady standing for independence in China. And he goes to knock on the door, and then all these thugs appear outside, block him off, and as I'm showing in the video, they push them away. Okay, I'll put the clip below just so you can watch the full video. I don't think you guys understand just how much, just how free you really are compared to other places. And again, I come back to, well, we may be divided over Thanksgiving, but hang on a minute. What's it really? Does it really matter? Is Donald Trump coming in really going to stop you from doing the things that you love, from living your passion, for starting up the company that you want to do, for whatever it is that you may want to do? I mean, is it really? I mean, what I'm trying to say is we have to accept the results. But at the same time, as you say, people have become more activist and stuff. I'm not saying don't protest in one hand. I think healthy protest is a good thing, right? But I think if it does anything, all this, it shifts the energies to really get you into tune with I think if these larger scale things don't happen, then what's the point of incarnating down here from a spiritual perspective?
Yeah, no, this is, like I said, this has been an awakening for many people. United States was riding on this idea of certainty. We have a free government, we have capitalism, we have freedom, everything's going to be okay. And now, I think certainty again makes us complacent. And I think that people weren't starting new businesses as much as maybe they wanted to. People weren't fighting for equality as much as they should have. People weren't protecting minorities. We were all kind of living our own little bubbles, sitting at home on the internet, only communicating with the few people that we wanted to. And now we see that we all need to wake up. We need to figure out a way to unite. We need to figure out a way to fight for what we believe in. So, in a way, this awakening it's kind of interesting. It's really interesting. It's sad that hate crimes are up in this country. It's sad that a lot of people are afraid and worried, but at the same time, it's a real opportunity. It's a real opportunity for us to kind of make the country that we really want and make the life that we really want. So again, it all comes down to our ability to deal with uncertainty. And I really think people use this as an opportunity to see that we don't need certainty. The unknown offers a new life, new possibilities. It offers us, an opportunity for us to take our power back. It's really an amazing time. We just have to be willing to kind of not grab at old paradigms.
Yeah.
Because they really don't work anymore, and that's the truth.
So much has been brought up in this election, hasn't it? Do you know what I mean? And there's me all the way in another foreign country in Amsterdam, having this discussion with you, caring about it as well. Because, well, I suppose I see us all as one, and that's what we've lost here, haven't we? In America as well. Where's the oneness? Where's the common that we are all in this together?
And that's why people need to be really careful about this awakening that's happened in the United States. Because like I said before, a lot of people are very angry. They're very angry that Donald Trump's president. They're afraid. They can't even bear looking at him. And again, you could awaken to the fact, like, I need to be more active in my society. I need to do more. I need to make sure that we stay free, that people are protected. But anger and fear, you can only ride it so long. And it will not create unity. And that's why I really believe in this concept of maybe, because I think that if you decide to embrace maybe, that anger and that fear could subside and turn to hope. So you could do all the things that you want to do, but instead of using anger and fear, you can use maybe and hope. And you'll be just as active, but you'll be more understanding, you'll be more kind, and most of all, you'll have the most energy to kind of fight for the things that you believe in. And like you said, hold your power, still start your businesses, still love your kids, and still, live this beautiful life that you were living before, but at the same time also being a more active member of your community. So I think that we have to shift. Ooh. And I think this shift, I think it really could happen. I feel, although, I have moments where I see something now, like I could see Donald Trump nominating a certain cabinet member I wouldn't have chosen, but I see what happens. The minute I see that, I project what it means for the future. And I bring myself back. I bring myself back to the moment and say, I don't know what's going to happen. But within not knowing is hope and possibility. And it doesn't make me complacent.
No.
And in fact, it makes me want to do more. And that's the thing. People sometimes say, oh, maybe you're just saying maybe everything's going to be okay. I mean, the truth is maybe it will be, but maybe doesn't say that. Maybe it also says is maybe I need to act. Maybe things are going to be bad and maybe it'll get better. Maybe there's something I could do in this moment. Maybe I could release this anger and bring more love and peace into the world in this moment will make a difference. So maybe what maybe does allows us to access all things that are possible from this moment forward. And I don't see another way. I don't feel angry. I don't feel afraid. I feel more present than I've ever been, only because I'm practicing this idea that I don't know what's going to happen next, and within not knowing is hope and possibility, and I'm taking everything that I saw during the election, and it's making me see in this moment what I need to do, what groups I need to join, causes I need to be part of, and how I need to act to make the world better. And I feel very clear right now. I'm very strong and very resilient.
Good.
So it's working for me, and it's working for the people that follow maybe, and I hope more people can embrace this idea, because I think this is the way to go.
Yeah.
Embrace uncertainty and find your strength and keep your power.
Absolutely. And let's just look at it from a different perspective as well. We must be able to find some loving aspects of Donald Trump. And I bet you the more loving aspects we find, then on top of that, we find even more, right? But by doing that, we we see the positive in the situation. Now, I know it sounds a bit heavy for some people, but I suggest trying to come from that space, because if we hate someone like Donald or Hillary, if we hate these people, and if we look at it from a spiritual perspective, we are hating our own infinite consciousness. We're hating what we are. How can you hate what we are? This is a game, people. This is something that we've chosen to have experience. Well, this is my truth. We've chosen to come here. We've chosen to have experience, and we've chosen to be in this craziness in a sense because there was nothing better to do on a Saturday night. So, I don't know if that's true or not, but therefore, let's not hate what we are. And maybe we can apply that not just to Donald Trump, but to other things in the world that are going on right now, because, this shift, this major change has happened at a time in the world when there is so much going on. I think one thing it's done as well is to wake Americans up to realize that it's not just in America there's shifts happening. There's also shit happening all over the place, not just shifts, but just transferring the word there to shit. There is a lot happening. And I think the power of maybe definitely just help us to cope with that. And also, I mean, you look at it's not just in America that this change has happened. In Germany right now, the far right is becoming in power, and it looks like it's got a possibility of winning, which a couple of years ago that would not have seemed possible. And the far right do not come with great ideas. The same's happening in France. The same is going to happen. There's changes going on in Great Britain, where I'm from, as well, with Brexit. More extreme ideas are coming in. Not completely extreme as compared to other countries, but people are fed up. That's why they voted for Brexit. They didn't give a shit really about the outcome. It was just more of a case of they were just fed up with not having a voice. But I come down to the same thing. I'm sorry I'm taking a lot of airtime up here. I come down to the same thing. What about you? What we get lost in politics. What about look at embracing the spiritual side and coming back down to that again? What do you want out of life? What is it that you are trying to do? All of us, that's listening, we can't change the world, but we can change ourselves. And isn't that what the power of maybe does?
Well, it's interesting what you said. Who's our greatest enemy? Is Donald Trump my greatest enemy, or is my fear my greatest enemy? Is my need for certainty my greatest enemy? And I think that's where things shift. Look within yourself. It's our fear. If you look at how everyone's voting, a lot of people are voting on their fear, not on their truth. They're not voting from a place of power. So the only way this changed, first step is us. And I think it's really interesting what you're saying. So who is my greatest enemy? And I know for myself, it's my fear and it's my need for certainty. So if we're willing to kind of dance with those ideas and not live from a fear-based place and live from a place of truth, of wholeness, of love, we're going to be different. We're going to create our different type of life, and we're going to make different votes and we're going to do everything different. So I agree with you. Our greatest enemy has been the dialogue that's going on within ourselves. And that's what needs to shift. Shift first within yourself, and then the world will follow. And I think that's really what it's all about.
So important. And the only reason I say that is I can't stop, some guy getting gunned down. Do you know what I mean? I can't stop, mass supporters becoming violent. I can't stop what's going to happen politically internationally, but I can be a beacon to those around me in my vicinity. I can change me. And I think there's something about this as well. The more and more I get into consciousness, esotericness, the more there's something about we create our reality. We create our reality. Now, I'm not saying that reality out there is not what we think it is. I'm not kind of saying. I'm kind of saying that shift within maybe is a shift throughout, on externally. I guess that's what I'm saying. And one other thing as well, I think a lot of spiritual people right now have been shocked to the core with what's happened. And I don't think that's because they're out of alignment in what we're saying. Once they hear what we're saying, they'll understand. And this truth was in them already. And if it doesn't resonate, fine, don't go with it. But I think what's really shocked them is that they're sensitive people, and they've picked up on the sensitivity of all the myriad of people out there that are in pain and shock as well.
Right. Yeah, and I agree with you. I have on my Facebook feed, some of the people who are flipping out the most are people that I have looked to for spiritual guidance. And it's so interesting, but again, it's just bringing up our inability to deal with uncertainty. That's all that's happening right now. Yeah, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of fear, but again, we got to look within ourselves. We have to look within ourselves and look at our worst enemy, and that's our fear. So that's what the game is about. But I do agree with you. I think the sensitivity through a lot of people who are spiritual, we have to kind of get a hold of it right now, because I think the people who are spiritual and are very heartfelt, they could be the new leaders of moving forward. But again, fear is a very powerful enemy. And again, you can't tell people, don't worry, just be positive, because if you're afraid of the unknown, it's going to be impossible. So we need to find a mindset that keeps cutting off the projection, because these people who are spiritual, it's not, again, you said before, it's not this moment, it's the projection of what's going to happen in the future. We suffer because we think we know. And thank goodness we don't know, because knowing would shut us down. Knowing would make us not fight, not join groups, not try to make the world a better place. So every day I say, I am so thankful I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Because of that, I wake up with hope and possibility, and I act based on what I think I need to do next. And maybe is my practice. So everybody's going to have different types of practices to help them. But I see a lot of spiritual people really falling apart. And again, everybody watch the projection. What's real now, and what story am I telling about the future?
Right.
And find a practice that will help you come back to the moment. And that's really, I think, the most important thing we could all do right now.
Absolutely. And have these conversations, absolutely. And with the young people, obviously, now you're talking about, joining groups, and I've said as well, I'm not anti protest at all, and not at all. If that feels the right thing to do, that's what you've got to do. But do you think that that some younger people nowadays have a sense of that they are entitled? And what I mean by that as well is that I've always if I've lost, that's fine. I tried my best. And I'll go along with that. So when people are going against the election results in the sense of the mass protests still taking place across America, not reported by the mainstream media as much as they were being, but they're happening. Do you think that's it? Do you think that's a sense of entitlement that the younger generation don't understand, that we just have to go along with the results? Or do you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I think that there are a lot of people that are so afraid of what's going to happen next. I think it's more than just entitlement. Yes, I think that there's a whole generation where we win. Like, Donald Trump says, we win. And I think it's hard for people to come to terms with the fact that they didn't win. But I think this one is so much deeper than that. I know people who are afraid their parents are going to be deported. I know people who feel they're not going to have funding for college next year. I see a lot of
healthcare funding as well going up. Yeah.
Healthcare is a big issue. I know a lot of people with disabled children are so afraid that the pre-existing condition provisions are going to be taken away. Sure. So these people have fears about what's going to happen next. So I think this protesting is less to do with entitlement and I didn't get what I wanted, and more about fear of what's going to happen next. I think a lot of people are afraid. I mean, Donald Trump said a lot of things about, he tried to get a Mexican judge, a judge with Hispanic background removed from from his case because of his, what his ethnicity is, so there's all this stuff happening right now. And I think that, again, people kind of have to find a place for it. So it's more fear-based and I think less entitled. But again, we're projecting like we know. We need to take that fear and turn it into action. And again, it's really hard to run fear. What's interesting about fear and anger too is that you could be really angry and afraid about Donald Trump being president and think you can manage it. But that fear and anger, eventually it's going to seep into every part of your life. You're going to become very edgy at work. You're going to not make the best decisions in your life. You're not going to parent the same way. So this emotion, you think it's going to help you change the world, but it's really going to do is going to take your power away and it start infiltrating all different parts of your life.
Right.
So again, we need to awaken, but we need to find a way of thinking and a perspective that's going to make us resilient and open
Right.
and kinder and more. And we just have to find a different way to do it. And again, you know my practice, but I hope people find a practice that works for them.
Well, yep, no, absolutely. And your website as well, just for the viewers, your website?
Is AllisonCarmen.com.
Okay, well, that's been coming up on the screen as well. I just wanted it for the podcast version as well. Let's try to see, again, as I say, the positive side in Donald Trump, that actually there may be some very positive things that actually he does do. He's talking about clearing the swamp and all this of the corruption. Well, look, there may be, after all this is said and done, some positive things that came off this. This is a time that people are going to talk about for many decades to come, don't you think? This is such a shift. And don't you think as well that the shift has, there's been talk about a shift taking place. They talked about it in 2012. No. The shift is just starting now. This is just the beginning of it. And that's not coming from fear. That's just what is. Yeah? And
right.
To come from...
And we'll win, right? We'll hate win or we'll love win, right? And we have to make a choice with that. And is this shift bad? We don't know. Again, we don't know. And we have to allow that. Because if we don't allow not knowing, again, we're going to grasp for things. We're going to grasp for certainty. We're either going to become complacent or live the next decade in fear. And I think there's another way. I think there's, and I just hope, and I hope it's okay. I would like to, if it's okay with you, give people an exercise that maybe they could do. What people could do is that what they should start doing is start writing their biggest fear down. I'm afraid that if Donald Trump becomes president, he'll get rid of the Constitution, or my parents will be deported, or there won't be liberties, or the economy is going to fall, whatever your fear is. And ask yourself in this moment, am I 100% certain I know what's going to happen next? And most of the time you could say, no, I don't know what's going to be next. And then start writing maybe statements down. Maybe, like we said, maybe everything's going to be okay. Maybe things are going to get bad, and maybe they're going to get better. Maybe there's something I can do. Maybe my thoughts that I'm having aren't true. And if you write these maybe statements down for about 30 minutes, again, it sounds really simple, but sometimes the most simple thing is the most profound thing. If you do this for 20 to 30 minutes, you will find that instead of being in this place where you are so afraid and you think the world is over and nuclear disaster is on its way, you will go to a place of hope and possibility. And even if your fear's still there, at least you know, okay, I'm afraid of this, but there are other possibilities too. And that's how you switch your platform, switch that mindset from fear, and over time become more hopeful, or at least allow yourself to act and not be paralyzed by the things that you see in the moment. And that also goes for your job and your personal life and everything in your life. If you choose maybe instead of fear, if you choose maybe instead of hate, you will change and the world will change. And I truly believe that more now than ever.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's, it's one fantastic way forward right now. And there's, if we would just give it a chance. And,
Right.
but, like I said in this interview, people will listen to this and that they may not, because there's addictions. And they don't even realize that the addictions are there, the addictions to the fear-based stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just really, is it serving you? Is it, is it making your life in the moment the best? Where are you in all this? Where is what you want? That's what I keep saying. And that's why I'm switching my attention more and more to the law of attraction. I'm going to start doing much more on that as well, for myself and for others. And, and that's just, these are just words, law of attraction. It's just a way of, bringing that into your space, that which bringing the joy of now, the sacred joy of now into your space. That's what it's all about. And maybe it will all be perfect as well. We could go on and on here, couldn't we?
I think you're advocating for people not to give their power away.
Yeah.
And I think that if everything, Donald Trump's not giving his power away.
No.
Mike Pence, nobody. It's funny how we're watching them. They look so strong and mighty. Well, they're not giving their power away. And it's our job not to give our power away. So I think what you're saying right now is really profound. If we could hold our own authentic power, that would be the most thing. And a lot of people were not holding their power before because they felt certain about certain things. They were complacent. and don't realize that they weren't living their best life because things just seemed okay. And it was enough. And it was fine. It was good. But again, I agree with you. It's just, if you hold your power 100%, wow, what would your life look like? Who would you be? What would happen next? So I agree with you. This is a time.
The next Donald Trump.
Right?
Just without all the crap side. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You know, look. I'm not anti-Trump. I'm not anti-Hillary. You know, they've both done. You know, they were the worst of the best, right? Or the best of the worst, whichever way you want to look at it, right? And they came along right now for many reasons. Look at it like that. They've come along at the right time to do what they needed to do. That's the way I look at it. And it's, God, let's just start spreading some love. That's the best thing we can do. I know that, I mean, a lot of people say that's just nonsense. What a load of bollocks. You know, what about what's going on in the world now and everything else? And that's where a lot of these alternative news media channels come in. It's all very fact-based. Oh, this bit of paperwork says this, and I've got this to prove this, that this was corrupted, and this. And you say to these people, well, hang on a minute, you're heavily into conspiracy, nothing wrong with that, but where's the solution? Oh, well, the solution is in informing people. Right, so you're informing people. What's the solution you're offering? Where is the solution in any of that? It's just more fear-based stuff. I'm not saying don't do it, but you're coming from it from the wrong perspective. That's my view on it. And I know that people will listen back to this or watch back to this and say, well, what a wanker he is, me for saying that. But it's true, though. From my perspective, I say the solution has to be you. You are the solution that you were looking for. And that's a spiritual solution. You are consciousness within a body. And that's my solution to you, to come from that space. But, you know, that's just my truth. Come up with your own.
Yeah, and I think the less you're in fear, again, it's very hard to ride hate to a solution. I think it's almost impossible, and it infiltrates every part of our lives. So I think less fear, less hate, more open-mindedness, right? And more ability to find solutions. Again, it's just, where do we start? And you're just saying you got to start from within. Yeah. Right? You got to start from within yourself to find a new platform to stand on. And I really believe that the strength is going to come from letting go of the fear and the hate.
Absolutely.
I've been in many board meetings where the strongest person in the room is the one that's able to stay calm, strong, and resilient through every discussion. The person who's hateful, they might bring awareness to a situation. The person that's fear, these people rile people up and they bring awareness, but I've never seen one of them bring it home. The only person, the strongest leader, is the one that stays centered through everything. Yeah. And I've seen that in business. I've worked with big corporations. I've worked for a lot of people, and every single time, yes, there is an awakening. There are issues that are brought up by these people with loud voices and anger and dismay and fear, but they never bring it home. No. They always fall by the wayside. They're never the ones that lead people to the right solution. So I think we want to be leaders. We need to look at that.
But that can be very addictive as well. That can be very addictive. So I get addicted to the fear-based stuff. Don't think I'm immune to it. I love it, but I don't say it's my truth. Right. Now, when you say I love it, I mean, I'm looking at it with different eyes in love. I'm not looking at it with eyes of, oh, that's true, that, or whatever it may be. I'm just from a different perspective. But if I didn't know about it or didn't accept it or have it in my, some spiritual people say, I'm just going to ignore everything. I'm going to ignore it all. And by ignoring it, that will be, it's not in my reality. Well, hang on a minute. Why would you want to ignore the suffering of others? Because that's what you're doing.
No, I agree with that too. I decide to be informed but not afraid. And again, when you talk about the addiction is not to fear. The addiction is to certainty. The reason why we're afraid is we see something in the moment and it makes us feel not safe. Because deep down, we're all afraid we're not okay. That's really what this is bringing up. Our deep-based fear that we're not okay based on the fact that we don't know what's going to happen next.
Absolutely.
So that's the addiction. Yeah. So right now, the addiction that we're all messed up about is our addiction to certainty. Heal that, you will heal yourself, and you will help heal the world. To me, that's really the fundamental thing about what's happening right now.
But there will be others that say, excuse me, madam, I'm logical, and there's no logic in that.
Okay. Well, what's not logical? I'm afraid that I don't know what's going to happen next. I think that's what's happening. That seems very logical to me, right? I mean, what's not logical about that people right now are afraid because they don't know what's going to happen next? I think that everybody would agree with that reality. I think where people get messed up is people say, I need to be angry, I need to be fearful, I need to be hateful. Your idea of love and kindness, that's not going to get me anywhere. Your idea of maybe is not going to make the world different. But you know something? All I can tell you is right today, I'm standing very strong. I started a political action committee last week.
Congrats.
I'm doing a bunch of charity work. I've donated money. My kids are functioning well. I feel stronger today than I felt in a really long time because I'm riding maybe full 100%. I am not judging. I am not getting trapped. And when I see myself starting to project, I say, I don't know about that. I see it and I say, okay, well, maybe in this moment I could do something, but I don't allow the fear to take over. I think that's very logical. I do. And I think there are people who want to ride their logic and their intellectual ideas, but a lot of them they can't get out of, they're on medication right now. They're really afraid. And I don't know if they're going to, be able to keep advocating in that realm. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all we can.
No, hats off to you for what you're doing. Really, I never saw your work going in this complete direction, but it's really cool what you're doing, and I guess you just don't know what's around the corner, and definitely the gift of maybe plays majorly into this time right now. And it's interesting that your book is still quite new, and it's really it's in this time right now, which is interesting. But one thing I just want to say finally is that life is so precious, life is so short. There are so many people out there, and I'm guilty of this as well, that just think, I've got ages on this planet. I've got so long. Tomorrow I could be gone, and so could many people. Well, why I mention this is that it's very fragile, isn't it, life? And we've got to make the most of it. So why come here for a fragile life to come from the space of fear and everything else? Why not just realize that life is so fragile? So let's make our best decisions now about who we want to be and what we want the world around us to be as well. And by coming from that space, maybe we can transform something quicker. We just see ourselves as being here so long, don't we? That's my point, and it's not quite like that.
Yeah, no, but that's beautifully said. How can we live a more present life? And that was really what's interesting the day after the election, that everybody was so distraught, but there were so many beautiful moments. I saw them in my own life. I woke up with my children. We had a beautiful breakfast. I was able to meet a bunch of women that morning. A lot of them were distraught, but we were together. Even, I know this sounds silly, but even like the taste of a cup of tea or a beautiful, whatever. There's so many little moments throughout the day, and we're always trying to forget them and sell them for the bigger picture. But the beautiful moments make up our lives, right? And so we should remember that too. Let's not give all our happiness and our peace and our love away for this bigger picture, because the bigger picture is unknown anyhow. So there's a gratitude. Again, also too, I think the practice of gratitude not just maybe makes us more present. Let's start by what we do have. And let's start and make that fullness and that wholeness and bring ourselves back to this moment. And that also will give us strength to carry on. And also, like you said, to enjoy the beauty and the fragility of life. And we have to remember that too. Life is for the living and life is for this moment. So anything that brings you back, don't let that projection take over your life, because it's not real. It's a made-up story with it's bottomless. It's a bottomless made-up story that could cause you not to sleep for the next 4 years. And yet at the same time, there's this beautiful stuff happening to us, to all of us in this moment. So let's find a way to practice that. And I believe that, that's how we have a better life today, and I think the world will be better tomorrow. So I'm a big believer in that too.
Well, there's me saying at the beginning of this interview, oh my God, I don't know if we're going to, I said this off air, we're going to, be able to do 51 minutes of this, let alone 34, but we're 54 minutes now, so there you go. How wrong was I? Maybe it would have been okay. I should have come from that space, right? So, Allison, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on today, and I'm sure our paths will cross at some other point as well. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests on the show via themoreshow.com, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.